Next on News for the Soul, learn intuitive skills with Tina. Tina Zion is a fourth-generation intuitive medium, an internationally known expert in medical intuition and mediumship. As an award-winning author and instructor, she teaches medical intuition and mediumship skills to students around the world. And now she's here to teach you on News for the Soul. Please welcome Tina Zion back to News for the Soul.
Hello to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I really love this. Thank you so much. I'm Tina Zion, and today I'm going to talk about, do you really know who your guides are? Now, think about that even as I say it. And if you've tuned into some of the other shows, you know that I always say take the pop of information. So if you would, what just popped in when I said, do you really know who your guides are? Take a moment. Okay. What I'm about to discuss today is possibly some very new information for some of you, and for others of you it might be quite controversial, and so it'll be interesting to for yourself just to notice whatever you notice about what I'm talking about here today. The thing is, I really end up teaching in my courses and in my books and here on this News for the Soul, that I really teach things that powerfully, wonderfully changed my own life and changed my work as an intuitive, a medical intuitive, and a medium. So what I've noticed is most people work with beings that say they are guides. Now, I used to work with anybody that would show up, or anything, I'm laughing at myself here, show up or, wander by, and they would say that they're a guide, and I would just accept that. And so I ended up working with just mostly deceased humans. Now, I want you to realize, too, if you are already aware of your guides, I want you to notice, and maybe you already know, if most of them, all of them, some of them are really deceased humans. Now, some of the deceased humans, some of them and most of them do mean well. I have my Grandma Marie that I bring up all the time, and she's always here at my right side, and she comes and goes, but she's at my right side a lot. And even my grandmother, Marie, is not at a level that I am working at now. Because deceased humans, like if I, fall over dead tonight, I will not become a very high level, very aware, very informed spirit guide. So, because I'll just be a deceased person. Now, our deceased loved ones are absolutely, wonderfully, our personal helpers. And my Grandma Marie is very much, very, very precious. She's talking to me right now. Very precious helper in my own personal life. But it would never occur to me to actually work with her as I figure out some very important questions or decisions that I have to make in my personal life. I listen to her, but I especially never work with her when I was doing readings and healings. I don't work with her when I'm standing in front of people teaching. I don't work with her right now as I talk with you right now, because she is a personal helper just for me. Then here's my story of what happened next. is for months, the two words kept jumping into my mind. It's like I couldn't get away from them. And the two words were divine and sacred. Divine and sacred. Now, I would wake up in the night, and it was like somebody was yelling at me, those two words, divine, sacred, sacred, divine. And I would go, all right already. And so I started giggling about it, actually, because I was hearing it when I drove down the road. I would hear it in the grocery store. It was amazing. And they finally got through to me that I am only to work with at least the highest level of guides that we know of, we mere humans know of. And what was coming through to me is that those words, divine and sacred, really sends out a very powerful signal of who you are willing to have as a guide and who you are really, truly willing to work with as far as guidance for other people. Now, here's the key factor of this little story, is that when I started calling out and inviting in and working with truly the divine and sacred level of guides, my abilities skyrocketed. My abilities were just wonderfully accurate, and my teaching became much more accurate, and my clients and students became much more accurate. It was a domino effect. And thank goodness they kept yelling those two words at me until they got through my thick head to only work with them. Now, where I want to mention next is you don't have to, dismiss the guides that you've been working with. I would never dismiss my grandmother Marie. I would never, push her away or tell her she has to leave. I would never do that. But I do not include her especially when I work with other people, especially that, because I truly want the most divine, the most sacred, and the most advanced level of awareness. And I'll say this, there's that old saying, I think it's in the Bible, that's as above, so below. So as above, so below, as below, so above. And if you think about it, we have all kinds of professionals in the earth level of life here. And some are very, very excellent. Some are considered experts. Some know the deepest level of their field. And so I want that for my own work with people. I want to really access the most advanced guides that we are aware of and that have come to me very willingly. And like I said, my abilities increased. Now, again, back to the guides, because many of you are very, very, very aware of the guides that you've been working with. So I'm not asking you to dismiss them, to tell them they have to go, but after I decided to only work with the divine and sacred, I actually talked it over with my old guides. And I realized they're not emotional like we living humans are. I release them. I thank them, and I thank them, and I thank them over and over again. And I said, I'm guided now to only work with this level of divine and sacred. And they said some very special words to me. They were very kind. I was very kind to them. And they did. Some turned around and walked away. Some floated upwards and left. And it was a beautiful thing. And so I want you to realize that if you come to that, they will not be emotional like we think they will be. We're more emotional than any of the deceased and any of our guides. So here's the next thing I want to bring up, is that for some reason, even deceased people at any level, because there are deceased people who mean very, very well and intend to be very special for us, but there are also deceased people who they were not nice on the earth plane and they died, and they are certainly not nice in the spirit realm. So I wanted to sort that out. And what I found as I sorted that out is that they cannot lie. So deceased people cannot lie to us. And guides, when they are certain levels of guides, they cannot lie to us either. And the divine and sacred, of course, would never lie to us as well. Now, I still haven't figured out why they cannot lie to us, or they don't anyway. I'm assuming that they cannot lie to us. So I began to ask, and here's some of the steps that I took. I began to talk and call out and invite in the divine and sacred. And I would ask them one question. And if you're taking, maybe some notes or something, write this down. I would invite in, and I have some very specific ways to do that here. I'll share with you in a little bit. But I began to ask, even my old guides, I asked them, are you truly at the divine and sacred level? And I would, from all of them, I got no. And from some of them, I just got silence. Well, silence is actually a no as well. And when I asked them that question, some of them would just turn and just kind of floated away. So I would love to know why they cannot or do not lie to us, no matter what level. Even the deceased people who was causing harm in their lifetime, in their living time, they still want to do harm now. They can't even lie to us. So it's amazing. I think we'd all be in a pickle if they could lie to us, but they apparently cannot. So that is my main question when a new guide comes is, are you truly at the divine and sacred level? Are you truly at the divine and sacred level? Now, I put the word truly in there because the foundation of that word is truth. And that seemed to make this question even more powerful to them. So I really recommend that you do that. Now, and now I do have a team of divine and sacred guides, but here's the next step that I realized. Not only are they divine and sacred, but they each tend to have a very specialized specialty. They tend to be experts in certain areas, certain aspects of life, certain things going on in life. And I found that as the next step. I found that as just amazing, just amazing. So we're going to start out here with two different specialists that I'm going to ask you to just be playful about this. Don't be very heavy or very worried about it. Just be playful about it. When we invite in, just thought we would play around with two different specialists. But first of all, before we do that, I want you to notice down inside of your heart right now, as I say all these words, just take a moment and notice whatever you're noticing. There's no right or there's no wrong. I was teaching this in one of my courses for the first time, and hands started lifting up from people, and many people told me this. Many people shared this even with the group. They said, I'm having problems really taking action to invite in divine and sacred guides. And I said, what? I was surprised. And here's what they all said, and they used two keywords. I just don't think I deserve to work with this very high level of guides. So there's one word, deserve. And the other thing they would say is, I question that I'm worthy to work with this level of guides. So please take a moment, and I want you to notice and even give it a measurement of, are you worthy? And do you deserve to work with the divine and sacred? Just take a moment. And then I ask you to take a moment and notice what's beneath that. Really notice yourself. This is all about you. This hour long together is not about me, it's about you. What's underneath possibly not deserving or not being worthy? Now, I mean this deep, deep, deep from my own heart, is the divine and sacred do not see us, feel us, work with us with any kind of judgment or criticism. We are the only ones that are judging and criticizing ourselves. They are at a level that they are not perceiving you with judgment, with criticism, none of that. And when the divine and sacred were yelling at me, those two words from a couple of months, it never occurred to me to feel like I didn't deserve. It never occurred to me. In fact, I welcomed them in because the divine and sacred are so eager to work with you. They are unbelievably happy to work with you because, and I even asked them this. I've asked this to different ones at different times, and they say that the entire universe is evolving. The entire universe and beyond is growing. And the more we allow this level of guides to work with us and for us to work with them, the more developed they become. So it's a mutual thing going on here. And I hope that helps you if you're feeling a bit judgmental about yourself or concerned about this. Please be aware of that this is actually helping them. And believe me, most of them are so much fun. Now, some of them are very grumpy. Some of them are very stern. So they have different personalities. But they are so eager to help you in this life. And I mean that with all of my heart. Now, if you would, notice yourself again and see if that makes a difference for you. And I'll tell you a couple of sweet stories. Is when I was doing the readings and healings, my clients, I would really engage my clients into noticing their own guides so that they don't think I'm the big kahuna and the only one that can help them out. that my hope is that I was helping them in the ways for them to help themselves, really. And I want you to be ready for this, because sometimes someone would say, well, I just received a guide. And I said, great. And I said, ask their name and find out about them. And they said, well, I already know it's Jesus. And I said, well, that's you've gone right to the top. That's fine. And they would say, well, no, that can't be right, because I'm not a Christian. And I said, well, Jesus really is bigger than that. He's not just about a certain religion. And then some other people, and this is the other story that I've had happen lots of times, Mother Mary would come to my client. And my client would say, this can't be right. Mother Mary has just come in as one of my guides. And I said, well, why isn't it right? And they said, because I'm not Catholic. So notice, if you would, here's kind of the next step. Notice, if you would, what kind of rules that you have about this. So notice your rules first, and I'll be quiet for a moment. And if you would, put your rules aside, because the divine and sacred, when we're truly working with them, and there's many, many more, and not just Jesus and Mary, there are many, many more. And many of them really don't even have names. They'll give you a name just for you to know them by if you want. But many of them just really don't even have a name. So be aware of that. Don't judge. Don't judge yourself. And just notice who arrives for you. So here's the first step. And if you would, it might help if you write this down, because what we're going to do is we're going to start out with an invitation. Now, an invitation is only an invitation. It is not telling them what you want them to do. And I thought we'd start with, because everybody, no matter what, needs this or should be working with, a divine and sacred guardian. So here's the directive. Here's what I want for everyone, if it feels right to you, to send these words out into the universe. So just send these words out, and I'll say it very slowly. And as I say that, just really feel it and put these words out. So we'll start out with I, and name yourself. Now invoke the greatest guardian of the divine and sacred, compassionate, loving light of Source, who will constantly guard my physical body, my energy field, and create a completely safe and sacred space around me. And they'll be quiet, and I want you to take the pop of who arrives for you and allow that, just allow them to come. And whoever showed up, whoever came to you, ask them the key question. And that is, are you truly at the divine and sacred level? If they're silent, that's a no, and I would ask them, or I'd tell them, you must leave. So if they're silent or if they say no, tell them they must leave, and just put that request out again. And if you're wondering if they arrived, let me give you some key pointers, I guess. You will feel, it's like whatever room or area that you are sitting in, you will feel the air change around you. You might have the impression of a presence around you. So just notice that. And with that yes, when you have a yes, again, I'll say the invitation is only an invitation. What we have to do when we are working with the divine and sacred, that we need to tell them at least once a day. I talk to them constantly, but at least once a day we need to tell them with real precise, exact words what we want them to do. So in this case, let's go back. And here's the words that we just used, but now we're going to tell your guardian what you want them to do for you every day. Constantly guard my physical body, guard my energy field, and create a completely safe and sacred space around me. Notice what happens. And now, if you would, I suggest that we also call in your divine and sacred guide who specializes in your intuitive abilities. Okay? Now, here's what I'm going to suggest that you call out. Here's the invitation. I, and then state your name, invite in now only a divine and sacred guide who specializes in working with me to always receive precise and accurate intuition. I'll repeat that for you. I, name yourself, invite in now only a divine and sacred guide who specializes in working with me to always receive precise and accurate intuition. That's your invitation. Now notice whoever arrives. And if you would, ask them the question, are you truly at the divine and sacred level? Now, if we're going too fast, because sometimes this does go too fast, remember that News for the Soul records everything. And so you can go back and work with this recording and pause it so that you have more time to actually receive them, to actually ask them that question. And talk about guides. My divine sacred are telling me they're yelling at me to give me a moment. I'm checking out here to see what they're yelling about. To really know that they are waiting to serve you. They are waiting to work with you. They are eager to be there for you every single day. No matter what's going on, they are there. Now, I also want to mention that when we're working with the divine and sacred, and they are very much specialists, that there's a specialty and a specialist for everything. So I have teams of them now. You could have a team of a divine and sacred guide who specializes in your physical, your mental health, your emotional health. There could be a divine and sacred specialist for you and all aspects of your own health. There's a divine and sacred guide who specializes in assisting you in all ways. Who assists you in your workplace, who assists you as a healer, who assists you in whatever aspect of life you need help with. There is no end to this. I have teams upon teams now because I've been doing this for 30 years. Now, it will get to a point where when you do have a team, you simply put the request out to your team, and they sort it out to who does what. They sort it out of who is the specialist for your particular request, okay? So most of the time, I don't even know who steps forward to help me out. I want you now to think about developing a working relationship with these guides. And before we do that, they're saying for me to give you another moment for you to write down what other specialists do you have in mind that you might need or want. For example, are you an artist? You would have a divine and sacred guide who specializes in sending creativity through you. You know, that's just an example that just popped in out of nowhere here for me to tell you. There's a specialist for everything. There's a specialist for our relationships. There's a specialist for our children. There's a specialist for everything. And these divine and sacred guides are truly a very elite group of specialists. So I love that. Okay, now, here's the next key things to keep in mind. Every word that you are thinking right now or anytime, every word that you think and every word that we say out loud is an electrical signal. It's an electrical spurt or surge going through our body. And no one ever thinks about our thoughts being surges of very, very exact frequency of energy. So to take your, to take your communication to the best level possible as you communicate with the divine and sacred, I want to share some tips with you about that. one of the tips is always, always, always be very precise in what you ask your divine and sacreds to do or to help you become. Because if you think about it, if every word that we think, every phrase that we think, or every sentence that we think has an electrical surge, then if we are going to develop a wonderful working relationship with the divine and sacred, we need to use very, very precise words. Okay? So, don't use words such as, I'm going to give you some vague words, first of all. Just don't say to your guides, well, help me. Help me now. Because even the word help is quite vague. Even the word healing is quite vague. So instead of saying vague words like that, what do you really, really mean? What do you really, truly mean? So let's put that into action. You have a divine and sacred guide who specializes in your accurate, precise intuition. Okay? What exactly do you want to tell them to do for you or bring to you or develop in you about your intuition? So take a moment, now be still, and notice what precisely do you want them to do with you and for you? Now, the next thing I want to emphasize, when you call out for your divine and sacred, use those two particular words. And here's what my group has told me about. If we use, because most of us used to do this, words like the best, the greatest, the highest, the supreme, well, the negative side of life has the best, the greatest, the highest, and the most supreme. So that's why divine and sacred are really power words. Most of these are really power words. They, the negative side of life does not have divine and sacred. And this is what my guides have explained to me. I'm really trying to tell you in a very short period of time about everything I have found out over these last years here with the divine and sacred. So don't use the best, the greatest, the highest, the supreme. Use the words divine and sacred. My guides tell me that narrows it down to who it is you are truly willing to work with. Okay? Now, I use a word that people get very concerned about is to be commanding. They cannot make a move in our life. They can't. If you're really working with divine and sacred, they cannot jump in and do something for us. Because, and I said, why can't you just jump in? Why do we have to say exactly what we want? And here's the response I got, is that they are, because they're divine and sacred, they are at a status, a level of advancement, that they are in profound, deep honor of our human choices. And we have a choice every split second of our life. In this living life, we have a choice about everything. So they have to stand no matter what and not make a move unless you give them the directives. And if some of you healers are listening here, we healers are also working in behalf of our clients, because I had to sort that out with the divine and sacred too. I had to say, well, what about the people that we're working with? Well, I never work with anyone unless I say, do I have permission to begin? and then they'll say yes. And my divine sacreds say that we are actually getting permission in their behalf. So the divine and sacred can work with you if you are an energy worker or working a counselor, anyone working with other people. Now, because we're using divine and precise words, I tend to say that we are commanding the divine and sacred. And now sit there for a moment and see if that word commanding, the divine and sacred's around, bothers you. Again, take a moment just about you. When I use the word commanding, you'll see that in my books as well, so I thought I'd bring this up. When we're commanding, we are really using here's what I really mean. We're using very exact words, and we're feeling the power of those words, like inside of our body. We're feeling the power of these words when we talk to our divine and sacreds. So you can use the word directive. We're directing them if commanding doesn't feel right to you. But really, the word commanding really just means you are exact, precise, and you mean it when you say it. And that, all we're doing in commanding or directing the divine sacred is we're sending out the clearest signal we could possibly, as living humans, come up with. That's what we're doing there. We're just creating the strongest signal that we can imagine. And because the clearer we direct them, it's that law of attraction, the clearer that they can respond. This is one of the most important things I'm saying here. The clearer than precise we use exact power words, I call them, and we mean it when we say it, then they can match that and follow through for us very, very precisely. I'm having a moment here where I'm feeling the power of that actually when I say it. Okay, another key, I'm kind of giving you some key points here, I hope. Don't just talk to your guides. And let me add this, don't just talk to our deceased loved ones either. Now think about that for a moment. Because when we talk to our deceased loved ones or to our guides, we don't take time for them to respond. So what I'm suggesting is you be very directive using very precise, exact words, and you mean it when you say it. And when you ask them questions, too, you're not just directing them all the time, but I want you to develop a working relationship with these guides. And when you do, you say something precise and to the point, and then, for goodness sakes, pause and receive the pop of information. And I always call it the pop because the instant information in words or in little pictures in our mind, that instant will always be the clearest piece of information. The next split second after that is going to be our thinking mind trying to sort stuff out. So talk to your guides. Develop a working relationship with them. Ask them things like, what will be my best step to take to work wonderfully with you or to work precisely with you? Pause and take the pop. You might ask them what it will be their first step to work excellently with you. Pause and take the pop. And more than anything else, and I hope I have said this in every episode of working with News for the Soul is this will always, 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 forever, forever, forever feel like your imagination. It will never stop feeling like your imagination because we are not working with the physical level of life. We are working with the non-physical level of life. And so it's going to, it's going to lack that physicality of it. And it will forever feel like your imagination. I have been seeing deceased people since I can remember 4 or 5 years old, and I thought I was just playing around and goofing around back then. And what I realized is it's always going to feel like you're making it up. So let's take another moment here. Will you trust yourself, and will you trust your divine and sacreds when you receive that split-second pop of information? The next thing I'd want to share with you, too, as we come to a close here pretty soon, is I want you to notice what other specialists do you want to invite in? What is it? Really kind of scan through your life here for a moment, and what other specialists do you want to invite in? And please write that down. You can even ask your current divine and sacreds, because you have divine and sacred intuitive specialists and you have your guardian. You could even say, and I've asked my bunch this, is anyone missing from my team that would work excellently with me in my life? So again, I want to just to remind you, you are worthy and you do deserve to work with this very elite, very, very advanced level of guides. You do deserve to have a guardian to consistently, constantly guard your physical body, your energy field, and keep you safe and keep you in a sacred space. You do deserve to be even more intuitive than you already are. Everyone is intuitive. They're just not sure what intuition is. They think they're making it all up. So you do deserve a divine and sacred specialist for your accurate, precise intuition. You do deserve it. So I'll finish now by saying that I do have, let me think about this. I do have one more course coming up in October, and it's a Zoom course. So it's all on Zoom, and it's October, oh dear, I don't have my calendar, but you can look it up on my website, tinazion.com. And it'll be hosted by Tammy Barton, and she's in the central part of the U.S., and so it will be on Central Time from 9 to 5 on a Saturday and 9 to 5 on a Sunday. And the topic of that course is based on my book, Be Your Own Medical Intuitive, for your own health, to be your own medical intuitive. So please, join me there. I'd love to have you. And also I thought for next month, the first Monday of the month, I think I am going to discuss, of course, intuition, but how about I talk about intuition with our children? So our children's intuition, and I have all kinds of stories about that, and how to help our children not be afraid to be in their own bedroom, to not be afraid of the dark, and to teach them just how intuitive that they are, how very deeply, wonderfully aware that they are. And I'm going to ask you to listen to the children, especially from when they begin to talk up to, probably 6 years old, 7 years old, because they have not gotten so involved with the earth plane that they tend, at 6 or 7 years old, tend to start forgetting about where they've come from. They start forgetting about the past lives that they've had. And so I thought I would do the next one on children and their intuition. So if you know of anybody that would love to work better with their own children, please tell them that the next first Monday of October, to meet me here. So thank you so very much. Please, 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 this is only the beginning. Please work with your guardian and your intuitive specialist and many more after that. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.